Your mother's death isn't your detour, it's your superpower. I want to tell you about someone who is quietly rewriting the rules of grief, success, and survival for Black women across this country. Her name is Lekisha Nowling, and she is not just a grief counselor or a motivational speaker. She is a bridge builder between the unbearable and the unstoppable. She is helping women transform the kind of loss that society tells us should break us into the kind of power that reshapes industries, redefines leadership, and rebuilds legacies. Lakeisha's work is proving that when Black women in their 30s lose their mothers during what should be their prime years, they are not falling behind. They are stepping into a landscape that will teach them how to lead with a depth, a clarity, and a resilience that most people will never understand. And today, I want to share what Lakeisha taught me about a truth that will challenge everything you think you know about grief, ambition, and what it means to keep going when the woman who taught you how to stand is no longer here. Here it is. We have been taught that grief is something to get over, something to push through, something that if we are strong enough, smart enough, disciplined enough, we can leave behind us like a closed chapter in a book we will never open again. We have been taught that mourning is a detour from our real lives, that it is an interruption, a distraction, a weakness we must hide if we want to be taken seriously in boardrooms, on leadership teams, in entrepreneurial spaces where Black women are already fighting just to be seen. But what if that is not just wrong? What if that belief is actually stealing our power? What if grief, especially the grief of losing your mother in your 30s, is not a detour from your life at all? What if it is a new landscape you must learn to navigate? And what if true healing is not about moving on from your mother, but learning to move forward with her love as your internal compass? Let me say that again because this is the heart of everything Lakeisha shared with me. And it is the truth that will shift how you see your pain, your purpose, and your potential. Grief is not a detour, it is a new landscape. And your mother's love, it does not disappear when she does. It becomes the compass that guides you through terrain you never wanted to walk, but now must. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. This sounds beautiful, poetic even, but how does this work in the real world? How does this work when you are a Black woman in your 30s trying to build a business, trying to keep a job, trying to stay afloat in an economy that is actively pushing you to the margins? How does this work when the world expects you to show up with smile, to perform at peak capacity, to pretend that your heart is not shattered? Let me give you some context because the numbers tell a story that too many of us are living, and it is a story that nobody wants to talk about. As of September 2025, Black women's unemployment hit 7.5%. That is not just a statistic, that is 265,000 fewer Black women employed since January of this year. That is federal job cuts, that is economic slowdowns. That is doors closing in our faces while we are still processing the biggest loss of our lives. That is being told we are not enough, we are too much, we are not the right fit, all while we are trying to breathe through the weight of grief that feels like it is crushing our chests. And here is the kicker: while all of this is happening, while the economy is contracting and opportunities are shrinking, Black women are starting businesses at record rates. 49% of all new startups in 2024 were founded by Black women. 49%. We are not sitting around waiting for permission. We are not waiting for the economy to be kind. We are not waiting for the world to see our value. We are building our own tables, creating our own opportunities, and rewriting the rules of what leadership looks like. But here's what nobody talks about: many of those women, The ones launching businesses and leading teams and holding down households and showing up for their communities are doing it while navigating what Lekisha calls off time grief, grief that arrives during the rush hour of life, the phase when you are supposed to be peaking in your career, maybe starting a family, maybe buying your first home, maybe finally feeling like you have figured out how to balance it all. The phase when losing your mother feels especially cruel because you are supposed to be celebrating milestones with her, not burying her. You are supposed to be calling her for advice, not sitting in silence wondering how you are going to survive without her voice. At 32, 33, 34, you are in a unique kind of isolation. Your friends might still have their mothers. Your colleagues might not understand why you cannot just bounce back. And the world expects you to keep performing, keep producing, keep smiling, keep showing up as if nothing has changed, as if the ground beneath your feet has not completely shifted. Lekisha told me about a woman named Latoya Elder. Latoya lost her mother unexpectedly at 33 while scaling a tech startup in Atlanta. She was in the thick of it, raising capital, building a team, trying to prove herself in a sector where Black women receive just 0.3% of venture capital funding. 0.3%. Let that sink in. Black women are starting nearly half of all new businesses, but we are getting less than 1% of the funding. We are building empires with crumbs. And then Latoya's mother got sick, and then her mother died. Latoya could have shut down. She could have walked away. And honestly, nobody would have blamed her. The world would have understood. The world might have even expected it. But she did not. Instead, she did something that Lekisha says is the key to navigating this new landscape. She integrated her grief into her professional journey. She did not try to separate her pain from her purpose. She did not pretend her mother's death did not matter in the boardroom. She did not compartmentalize her humanity to fit into a system that was never built for her to thrive. She wove her mother's lessons on perseverance, on resilience, on showing up even when it is hard into the very fabric of her leadership. And here's what happened. Latoya doubled her team's diversity hires. She launched programs that have now trained over 500 Black women in tech. She secured partnerships with 10 major tech firms. She did not just survive her grief, she transformed it into a model for how Black women can lead with both strength and softness, with both ambition and authenticity, with both vision and vulnerability. But let us be clear, this was not about toxic positivity. This was not about pretending everything was fine. This was not about slapping on a smile and acting like her heart was not breaking every single day. Latoya formed mentorship networks specifically for grieving Black professionals because she understood something profound. You cannot navigate a new landscape alone. You need guides, you need community, you need people who understand that your tears and your triumphs can coexist in the same breath, that your pain and your power are not opposites, they are partners. Now, let me tell you about another woman Lekisha introduced me to. Her name is Cheryl. Cheryl lost her mother at 34 while building a tech diversity program in Chicago. She was operating in what economists are now calling the exit economy, an economy where over 600,000 Black women have been economically sidelined since February 2025. 600,000. That is not a number. That is mothers, daughters, sisters, friends. That is brilliance being pushed out. That is innovation being ignored. That is leadership being dismissed. Cheryl faced the same brutal reality that so many of us face: high unemployment, underfunded ventures, a world that says it values diversity but refuses to invest in it, a world that applauds our resilience but never questions why we have to be so resilient in the first place. And she was grieving deeply, painfully, in ways that made it hard to get out of bed some mornings. But here is what Cheryl did. She used her mother's love as what Lekisha calls an internal compass. Every decision she made, every team she built, every program she launched, she asked herself, what would my mother want me to do here? How would my mother want me to show up? What would my mother say if she could see me right now? And the results? Cheryl increased Black women's placements in tech by 300%. 300%. She sustained growth even as the job market contracted around her. She partnered with corporations to create scholarships. She trained over 1,000 emerging leaders. She did not move on from her mother, she moved forward with her. Now, I want to pause here because I think this is where the real shift happens. This is where Lekisha's insights become not just inspiring, but actionable. This is where we stop nodding our heads and start changing our lives. There are three things that Lekisha says every Black woman navigating off time grief must understand if she wants to not just survive, but thrive. First, integrate grief into your professional journey. Do not try to detour around it. Do not compartmentalize it. Do not pretend it is not there. Do not let anyone tell you that your grief does not belong in your workspace, in your business plan, in your leadership style. Weave your mother's wisdom into your daily decisions. Let her voice guide you when you are making hard choices. Let her love fuel the emotional strength you need to persist in a world that was not built for you to thrive. Because here is the truth: the women who are winning right now, the women who are building empires and shifting industries, are not the ones who left their grief at the door. They are the ones who brought it with them and let it teach them how to lead differently. Second, validate the isolation of off time grief. At 32, losing your mother creates a unique kind of loneliness. You are in a high stakes career phase. You are supposed to have it all together. You are supposed to be climbing, achieving, conquering. And suddenly you do not. Suddenly you are just trying to remember how to breathe. Recognizing this as normal, as valid, as something that does not make you weak or less capable or less worthy, empowers you to seek community support. It empowers you to say, I need help, I need space. I need people who understand. And that is not weakness, that is wisdom. Third, healing fuels entrepreneurial breakthroughs. This is the part that might sound counterintuitive, but Lekisha is adamant about this and the data backs her up. True progress means moving forward with your mother's love as your guide. It means transforming personal pain into purpose. And for Black women who are outpacing every other group in business growth, 56.9% increase in Black owned employer firms from 2017 to 2022. This is not just a nice idea, it is a survival strategy, it is a competitive advantage. It is the secret weapon that nobody talks about. Because here is the thing: the economy is not going to get easier, the funding gaps are not going to close themselves. The unemployment numbers are not going to magically improve. The systems that were built to exclude us are not going to suddenly welcome us with open arms. But you have something that no economic downturn can take away. You have your mother's love. You have her lessons. You have her voice in your head telling you to keep going, to stand tall, to never let anyone make you feel small, to remember who you are and whose you are. And when you learn to navigate grief as a new landscape instead of a detour, when you learn to use your mother's love as your internal compass, something extraordinary happens. You do not just survive, you innovate, you lead, you create models that other women can follow. You build businesses that change industries. You shift the narrative about what is possible for Black women who refuse to let their pain define them, but instead let it refine them. Look at the data. Black women led employer businesses have outpaced all other groups in growth, even amid job losses, even amid widening pay gaps where Black women earn 71 cents for every dollar a white man earns, even amid a venture capital system that gives Black founded teams just 0.3% of funding, even amid an economy that is actively trying to push us out. These women, thousands of them across the country, are treating grief as a navigable landscape. They are building community networks. They are making legacy driven pivots. They are asking themselves, what would my mother do? How would my mother want me to show up? What would make my mother proud? And they are thriving, not because they have moved on, but because they have learned to move forward. So here is my challenge for you today. Stop waiting for your grief to end before you start living again. Stop believing that you have to be healed before you can be powerful. Stop thinking that your mother's death is the thing that will break you. What if it is actually the thing that will make you? What if instead of rushing past your grief, you paused today? What if you identified one way her love could guide your next career move, your next business decision, your next boundary setting moment, your next act of courage? And what if you took that step this week? Not next month, not when you feel ready, not when the pain is gone, this week. Because here is what Lekisha Nowling taught me, and here is what Latoya and Cheryl and thousands of Black women entrepreneurs are proving every single day. Your mother's love did not die with her. It lives in you, it moves through you, it guides you, it strengthens you. It is the foundation upon which you will build everything that comes next. And when you learn to navigate grief as a new landscape, when you learn to let her love be your compass, you do not just heal. You become the woman she always knew you could be. You become the leader the world needs. You become unstoppable. So stop waiting for permission to grieve and lead at the same time. Stop apologizing for being human while being brilliant. Stop letting anyone tell you that your pain disqualifies you from your purpose. Your mother's death is not your detour, it is your superpower, and it is time you started using it.